Hello, welcome to Drawn from the Undertow. I said that more confidently than I did on the previous episode because now we've definitely decided on that title.
Hell yeah. It's a good title.
Yeah. It allows... Well, whatever. I'm going to make a post explaining why we chose that title. You all know. If you didn't read that post, go to undertow.cards and read that big post I made. We're doing the Postmortem for Eidolon Romance and Eidolon Plus Machine with Zoe and Iris.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, we ran them and we're in them.
Yeah, and we inflicted mutual torment on each other.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, Zoe. How'd you come up with the concept of Eidolon Romance?
Well, I listened to the album Danger Days by My Chemical Romance and thought that'd be fun. Genuinely, I just wanted to... It had been a long time since I tried to GM anything Eidolon related. R.I.P. Eidolon Pasta, you are never happening. But I just wanted to do something that felt like in my comfort zone, which that album and like it's kind of post-apocalyptic, like not Fallout, but not in a completely different arena than Fallout, like vibe, just felt very like comfort foody and fun in a way that I thought would click with folks, and I think it did, hopefully.
Iris, how did you come up with the idea of Eidolon Plus Machine?
Yeah, so Plus Machine, I got the inspiration from it from what might be a weird place considering what that show ended up being. So like, I think about 2 years ago, I think we're like in the middle of Disco Season 2, I want to say. I came across this itch.io game that someone had posted on Blue Sky called Guardian Frame Debrief, which is a like really short little pixel art micro game about a female engineer who is also the pilot of a giant robot, and she can maintain the giant robot and like swap out different parts, and like depending on the parts you select, you get like an ending poem. And also the robot and the engineer girl are a couple. And for some fucking reason, that turned some gears in my head where I was like, you know, it'd be really interesting to make an Eidolon series where there are two sets of like pilot robot pairs essentially, and like one player would play a robot and the other player would be like their pilot, and they would have like a mutual like Eidolon. And obviously the tone shifted to be a lot more serious than what the original inspiration was, but like that's the first thing that made me start thinking about like it would be fun to do a mecha series.
Both of you kind of went for a serious tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wanted to do melancholy, because like, hey, I think if your apocalypse isn't at least a little bit of a bummer, why? But yeah, like I wanted to do some melancholy, but like I knew it's inevitable, especially with the Eidolon gang. Even when we're doing something serious and heavy, stupid bullshit's gonna happen. It's gonna get goofy, silly.
Yeah, I made a superhero horse. Like,
yeah, that. Hey, I'm gonna be real with you. Caught me real off guard with that one. Did not expect horse to happen.
You should always expect horse around me.
You know what? That's on me. But yeah, I like, Molly and Lexi's characters were like very like, yeah, that's the vibe. And then, you went, hey, I read Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And I was like, shit, I do love Gerard's Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I thought I was speaking directly to you.
You were. I read it up really enjoying Hope Patrol. But yeah, like I think I made a conscious effort to try it, especially with Molly, and everything with her character hereafter. Tried to throw some punches.
I did love Hereafter's like whole deal.
Oh, I did too. And Molly did it so well. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
It was so satisfying.
I was very sad.
Yeah, good. Fuck you.
I guess to like talk about the tone more, like mecha series aren't necessarily inherently serious. It's just that a lot of the pitch I was thinking of, like, as well as the series I ended up drawing from, were all on kind of the more melodramatic and serious side. Because like as I thought about the pitch more and sort of thinking about it as a fight between like two factions of, you know, Outer Sphere versus Terra, I obviously started drawing stuff from Gundam, Heaven Will Be Mine, like Die Buster, a little bit from Gunbuster, but I'm gonna be honest, primarily Die Buster. It ended up like shifting into a more serious tone. Combine that with like when I started to think about like why, like how do the Leviathans have their own Eidolons already? If the idea is that because I wanted like both sets of players, I want every character to be able to make their own, every player to be able to make their own Eidolon, rather than just having two Eidolons for the entire game. So I did have to think about like, well, how do the Leviathan players already have their own Eidolons? And that led me to go, okay, well, they must have had previous pilots. Well, where are those previous pilots? If they're supposed to be bonded, well, it's probably nothing good. And that, like, combination of the inspirations I was working with, as well as just, like, me coming to some natural conclusions with how I was, like, setting up the mechanics and, like, the background of how these things worked kind of just, like, led me into, this is going to be a story about, like, loss and grief and like, you know, trying to fight for something, fight for a future that, like, you know, some people you care about will never get to see.
That's heavy.
Yeah. I was going through it a little.
I'm sensing a theme where Iris's answers are much more thought out than my answers.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is we kind of planned out these miniseries in two phases, where the initial burst of ideas was Island Romance Flashback, and then we extended it with Adult 2 Proto. But Plus Machine, for various scheduling reasons, got pushed back pretty far. Did that give you more time to cook?
Yeah, a little bit. Though I would say it probably didn't impact the structure that much. Like the story skeleton I started out with was essentially the same as what I ended up like trying to start with once we actually, you know, began recording. So I don't think like the delays really changed all that much about what I was going to do. It just gave me a little more time to like flesh out some background details a bit more. Like I don't know if I like create that list of sort of recurring NPCs if we don't have those delays, which that's a little personal regret of mine, is that I didn't do more with the recurring NPCs, because I did like them. I'm just kind of bad at like juggling a bunch of NPCs.
And unfortunately, the feast of interpersonal trauma that we got, combining the wrong pilot with the wrong Leviathan, ate up a good deal of our airtime, I think.
Yeah, true. Also, the pilot mecha pairs already like had so much like drama and like meat to those bones that the NPCs ended up like not really being all that necessary for, you know, constructing those scenes.
it's really hard to integrate NPCs. I remember that was like a big goal of Disco Ska, and I think we kind of had a mixed success on that one. I don't feel like I even figured it out until adult.
Yeah, I was like fairly happy with the Blood Knights at the very least. I wish I had like either used the random the MI6 lady I introduced a bit better, or just like sorry, I don't want to turn this into a disco postmortem all of a sudden, but like those NPCs are really the only ones I really felt like I did decent justice to. I don't know. I have a lot of time. I have a real hard time like juggling a large NPC cast. Like I can handle one or two at a time, maybe.
I find with NPCs, it's like I come up with a basic idea, like, their place in the world, their outlook in the world, like name and everything. But then I try not to give them too much other than that, because I know y'all are gonna, hey, I'm gonna tell you, Moist Likely, wasn't that her name? Her name is Moist Likely? Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, Moist Likely becoming the new hookup for Lexi was not in my game plan.
Oh, that was so good though.
Yeah. So I always feel like, especially like I could never guess which NPCs y'all are gonna latch on to. Like I always like do a little bit of work, but try not to overplan, because I feel like then you're just kind of stepping on your own toes whenever things go in a completely opposite direction.
Yeah, like speaking of Moist, actually, I really appreciated that little arc, because with Hope Patrol, I figured out like a pretty easy way for Hope Patrol to relate to Hereafter. Like with him trying to be kind of like protective and encouraging. I struggled a little bit more figuring out like Hope Patrol's whole deal with Lexi's character.
Yeah.
But like that little arc with Moist gave them like a really fun little interaction point where Hope was like, okay, I'm gonna be a good matchmaker for this lady I have a lot of respect for, and I think she deserves to have a good time.
It's truly insane that I was like, yeah, this one's gonna be a serious one. I'm gonna say something here. What do you mean? Yeah, of course a horse plays matchmaker with an information dealer named Moist and a tattooed she-they queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Zoe, you mentioned you wanted to say something with this one. Speak on that.
I wanted to say something in that I wanted to, like, I think I didn't stick to the message as much as I wanted to, but, like, I still tried. I feel like, especially right now, and when I came up with the plan in like late 2025, it's very easy to feel hopeless about the world, and that, like, hey, there's no point in fighting, like, things aren't going to get better, like, so I wanted to make sure that, like, I think the message I was aiming for with romance was there's always a point in fighting, even if, like, hey, maybe things won't get better for you, but if you keep fighting, they could get better for your children or the next generation or whoever. The future still matters, even if you're not there to see it. And that's kind of what I was aiming for.
Did the way that you approach that goal change as the series went on?
Yes and no. I originally was going to have more of the House of Wolves and everything with the child soldiers be more actively incorporated. But unfortunately, pacing, you can't railroad a party. So sometimes a session where you're expecting to get to the villain instead is around an hour of creeping along a cliffside, having inter-party discussions. So you play the cards that are dealt.
Yeah, we just did some Lord of the Rings walking somewhere.
You really did. You really, really did. When I ended that episode with like, yeah, and you could see Battery City in the distance, I was like, that's where we were supposed to hit an hour ago. But yeah, so like I had to adjust here and there, but I think it still landed, like especially like with Hope Patrol. It's hard to come up with a better like inspirational figure than the superhero horse named Hope.
Yeah.
So it's there were some pretty natural lanes to lean into.
Iris, did you have a particular something to say in mind with Plus Machine?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure if I had a like specific message so much as I wanted to like create a situation that would like encourage the characters to engage with both what the conflict in the present as well as what the past meant to them and how it, shaped them and impacted them. I really wanted the players to. I wanted at least some of the conflict to be from these like differing motivations and desires that both the Leviathans and the pilots would have. Which, boy howdy, did I get more of that than even I was expecting.
Oh, I'm sorry. You let Luke and I play bonded rivals. Good fucking luck. Have fun with that.
To be fair, also part of it on from a very like from a much more like goofy and surface level kind of desire. I was hoping you and Luke would pair up because I loved the Daft dynamic. And so I did jump at the chance to just do that again.
And that little did I know Luke was gonna make us literally do it again and share a body.
Yeah, well, to be fair, that was kind of also me pushing that.
You fucker.
But to continue Crystal's question here, like one of the interesting things that like I actually started thinking about that I hadn't actually considered is that like fairly early on the players reacted to the players did not respect Fluoranodyne.
No.
And they kind of like clearly thought she was dumb. Which was not something I was anticipating, and like maybe that's just because I just didn't like think out her plans well enough, or maybe I just like did not roleplay her as like convincingly as I was intending to. But regardless of like what mistakes I may or may not have made with my initial conception of Floor and like her motives and her ultimate goals, it did then lead into this really interesting through line of, what are you fighting for? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, is the thing you're doing actually good? Which then very much influenced how I ended up playing Clotho, because I thought like, what if we extend that and play with that question more. So that I came into Machine with like some ideas and rough edges and conflicts I wanted to encourage, but ultimately one of the things that really helped structure the overarching narrative was just the players calling me out, essentially.
Well, I mean, we let you know I was playing a little rebellious shithead. Luke was a depressed robot.
Yeah.
Lexi was a hardened veteran who was just kind of like, I seen it all, kid.
Yeah.
And then I think the only person who was like, yeah, I'll comply was Maxie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, unfortunately, I don't think there's any like amount of authority you can RP that will make that particular group of characters be like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, which, like, personally, that ended up being way better than the alternative, especially, like, in that second to last episode with the initial, like, Clotho confrontation, where you all were debating whether Clotho could actually be trusted, and Atropos actually comes down on the side of, like, why don't we give this a shot? I could not have asked for, like, a better reaction to that particular scenario.
God.
Zoe, what was your favorite moment in Plus Machine?
I really liked, I'm going to give two answers here, because one is a little unfair because it was, like, pulling back the curtain here. It was planned, to a degree, when, we didn't fudge any draws or anything, but, when we were talking about these characters, and we decided on, like, who was being bonded with what Leviathan, Luke and I were talking, and Luke was like, it sounds like I rip off your arms, when the first bonding happens, and I was like, fuck, that sounds amazing. Let's try and do that. And so, like, that it wasn't planned in the sense that, like, we made sure it happened, but, like, that was on our radar for something we wanted to try and make happen if we could. I think that moment worked really well. I am very glad that my upstairs neighbors moved out right before I had to do that scream. And then, I really loved the finale, like, the giant, like, it felt like ow, sorry, my cat just jumped into my lap and stabbed me 1,000 times. Oh, ow. Oh, I'm bleeding a lot, but that's okay. We're fine. It's real radio now.
Oh, no.
Oh, yowza. But yeah, I loved it felt like we switched genres, like mech genres, in the finale when we started doing the fucking, like, Megazord combine shit, and, like, having, like, the fucking Gurren Lagann cape, and, like, it ruled. It was super fun and super satisfying.
Yeah, I very much intentionally wanted to make that final episode feel more like Gunbuster and Diebuster.
Yeah. I know what those are.
Those are the ancestors of Gurren Lagann.
Yes.
Huh?
Iris, what was your favorite moment in romance?
Oh gosh, we covered it briefly, but I legitimately did really love that, like, trek that our characters did through the mountains, like, where we did get to have those character conversations, and, like, I still adore the, like, image I had in my head of, like, Hope Patrol shielding the other two from, like, the cold winds, as they, like, as everyone, like, laid down to rest.
Huddled together. It was cute.
It was so good. I love that shit. I love those, like, little quiet moments.
So it sounds like both of you, based on what you said before, have a fairly let the players decide what happens GM style.
Yeah. I mean, I would say so for myself, for sure.
Yeah, I used to be a lot more controlling, like, back when, because for many years, I primarily DM'd, like, Dungeon Dragons and Pathfinder.
Crunchy.
Yeah, very crunchy. A lot of prep involved, which makes it hard to, like, improv things if stuff goes, like, really off the rails. And so I as a GM of those games, tended to like try to keep things mostly on track, if at all possible. And while that worked okay, like it definitely felt like it came at the expense of like character expression. Because we were always more focused on like doing the plot at hand and not getting distracted. And so like GMing Eidolon was really really nice. Like this is even going back to like Eidolon Daft. It was such a different experience. Because like I remember prepping for Daft, and like I still did a lot of prep for Daft. And then like a moderate amount for Queen. And then like after doing both of those minis, I realized like I did not need to do that much.
Yeah.
And so like when I ended up doing like my stints for Disco, and then more recently for Plus Machine, what I would primarily do is I would like just give myself an outline for here's like the basic idea of what this session is going to be. Here's where I would like to end it, and here's where like it begins. And I would like write up an opening monologue, and then like maybe I'd plan out the enemy Eidolon crashes. But otherwise that would kind of be it. It would fit in like half a page, maybe a full page if I had a particularly long monologue. And that ended up working just as well, perhaps better than all of the really extensive prep I would do for the earlier miniseries. Just because like most of the stuff I actually need to like have prepared are any like really important like narrative bits where I want to get the wording just right. But like those scenes are usually the ones where it's like those are probably going to happen at some point no matter what. Whereas everything else, like how you get there, where you go from there, like the little things that happen in between, I could really just sort of poke and prod at the players, and they would then do a lot of the cool stuff for me.
In my prep, I steal a little bit from my writing career, in that I approach NPCs, at least like notable ones, kind of how I do when I'm writing out a character cast for like a pitch document, which is you pare them down to the essentials, like, hey, here's their role in the world, here's what they want to do, here are their wants, here are their needs. Do they have any immediate beef? No? Cool. And then you just kind of go. And I feel like that works really well for Eidolon, but also just in general. Like, because you don't want to, like, plan every facet of a person's life, because then you're going to be stuck, like, with decision paralysis trying to figure out, well, how would they respond to that if I factor in this, 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 and this? Versus if you have the broad ideas of a person, I think it gives you a lot easier like flexibility in any given situation.
Zoe, how, as a player, how did you feel under Iris's GMing style versus other GMs?
Oh, I love playing when Iris GMs. It's great. It's always great. Iris does a really wonderful job of balancing. Like Iris, you always have a story you want to tell. In that, like, you know, you always have strong narration, you have like thematic through lines, but you don't ever, it never feels like you are shoving it down our throats as players. Like it always feels very natural, and like entertaining. And this machine was like a perfect, like, I loved Daft, but I think as much as I loved Highway and Craig, I think I ended up, finding Maeve and Apothos's horrible nightmare dynamic much more satisfying to actually play. And I had a great time. It was absolutely fantastic. I think it's always refreshing playing Eidolon, especially with Luke as a player, because we get so much Luke GMing, and Luke is an incredible GM. Never tell him I said this. He's one of the best I've ever played with. A true friend. Love him forever. If you tell him I said this, I'll stab you. But it's always really refreshing to get someone else's like angle. And Iris, you've developed across Queen and Daft and now Plus Machine. I feel like you've developed a very like strong, distinctive voice as a GM that I always enjoy engaging with.
Thank you.
Of course.
I really like how sort of like punchy your like GMing style is, like both from a tone standpoint, but also the fact that like you keep us moving. I have been certainly guilty of this as a player, where I will like to play out a scene perhaps further than it truly needs to go. And I think like you have a really good sense of like pacing, and like you do let us meander when it is like really working, you know, like we mentioned with your original plans for trying to get us to the city that took way longer than expected, but like you let that happen because it really worked.
Y'all were cooking. Yeah. I wasn't gonna interrupt you. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. But then at the same time, like one thing I think about with romance is that, Dan, we covered a lot of ground, actually. Like,
sure did.
There were a lot of different scenes that happened. We met a lot of different like NPCs, and we did a lot of things. And one of the reasons that we're able to do what appropriately felt like a proper journey through the wasteland is because like Zoe knows how to keep that energy going. And to make sure that like when a scene has reached its end, that we like then move on to the next new thing to do. And I also feel like you're good at like giving us a prompt that where I can immediately sense like, okay, I know what I want to be doing here.
Hell yeah.
Which is like super important. It's definitely something I have tried to be cognizant of, is like when my narration is done, do the players actually have a good hook to like start doing stuff with?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to balance, but thank you. It means a lot, because pacing is definitely something I very much like try and focus. It's my writer brain. I, especially being a comic writer, like, hey, when you got 22 pages to fit a whole issue's of story, whoo, you figure out that pacing. But yeah, it's something I really pride myself on. So I'm glad it feels satisfying. I think silence and like meandering, like I don't know what to do next, are the enemy.
Yeah.
And so I try and cut them off wherever I possibly can.
One of our goals for this round of miniseries is do a little bit more formal experimentation rather than the usual 4 episodes, 4 players. Zoe, you had the honor of GMing the first 3-player game of Eidolon. How did that feel?
It felt good. I actually kind of I like the space it gives the characters. It felt like everyone got more time to dig in. I feel like Jack was probably the one that got the least time, but even then, like especially towards the end when everything with her son kind of popped back in, it was fun. I definitely think it is a feasible number of players to run a satisfying game of Eidolon.
It worked so well that that's what we're doing for Thread Spinner.
Yeah,
sure is. And have we announced who's on what Thread Spinner thing?
Yes, at this point I have announced it.
Okay.
Cool. I'm fucking terrified. I'm so scared. I have to keep up with you and Morgan? Fuck.
Good luck.
Shit. I'm gonna die. And I'm playing a... Oh, wait, I can't. Bleep that out.
Yeah, that's just... There's some overlap there.
Yeah.
Sort of as an aside to the 3-player cast, one thing I did really like about Romance, that is more of a metatextual thing, but it was nice to get almost the entire rock crew back again. Rip
What's that?
Maxi. But yeah, I know.
Sorry,
you wouldn't know, but it was it was the first game we did. It was sort of important to my gender journey, but it was really nice, like doing a game with Molly and Lexi again, just being back with that crew. That was a lot of fun.
Iris, how did having 6 episodes feel versus your previous miniseries?
Oh, it definitely... I did actually kind of like having the space. Though on the other hand, there was a double-edged sword to it, because then I also felt like I had to justify it more. And also like make sure the ending felt appropriately like grandiose, I guess. Or not grandiose, but like it's weird to say having like only adding 2 more episodes, but it does feel like there are more loose ends you need to tie up. Like there needs to be a greater sense of closure to the whole thing. And which is part of the reason why I ended up doing the like epilogue the way I did. Like I mentioned it, on the actual episode that like, hey, we only ever got to use this epilogue system we designed once. What if I did it again? So that we can use as sort of like a final hurrah to that part of the system. But also, when I was considering that final episode and thinking about, like, do we just do the denouement as, like, we end the fight and then we have, like, maybe 10 minutes to half an hour, like, immediately after, just in that moment. And to me, with the scope that the 6 episodes contained, I wanted us to leave on a more comprehensive, like, here is what everyone is wanting, and here is like what the end point of their story is, at least for now. So yeah, I don't know. I'm having trouble putting it into exact words, but like having a larger number of episodes did make me feel like I then also had to like really think about that space more and make sure that like the ending as well, it wasn't just it's done,
Zoe, both as a player and as a GM, how did the 5th episode feel for you as a GM, and how did 6 episodes feel for you as a player?
6 felt like the appropriate length for Plus Machine. It felt like almost we were divided into little 2-episode mini arcs. In that, like, the first 2 were kind of like an introduction into the setting in a real way. The second 2 were like upping the stakes and establishing the like close those ear cliffhanger. And then the last 2 were a wrap up and like crescendoing. And it felt appropriate and great to play through. Never felt like we were dragging our feet. It was very satisfying. 5 GMing was mostly out of necessity, because again, Lord of the Rings happened. And what was originally going to be a 4-episode mini was either going to be a 5-episode mini or 3 and 1 very, very long 4th episode. So we just made the call, and it worked out fine, I think. I think it gave the finale a little bit more room to breathe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially, like, I think that was really important for, like, Hereafter's conclusion, which was heavy. Molly acted the shit out of that. And yeah, it felt... if I knew it was going to be 5 going in, I maybe could have paced it a little more smoothly, where 4 definitely feels like it's all set up. But, it is what it is, and I think it still worked.
What did you feel like you learned from previous seasons of Eidolon that you brought into these miniseries?
I think one of the things because I think that, like, even though like it was a sci-fi series, the thing I actually was thinking about in my mind most often when I was figuring out what I want to do for Plus Machine was Queen, actually. Both because they have a similar tone and also because they, have that kind of journey structure. I remember one of the things that I had kind of been kicking myself for with Queen was that I would come up with these kind of elaborate Eidolon fights, and then either I wouldn't have enough time to do them, or I would just details about them would completely slip my mind. One of the ones that stands out to me for Queen was the Tactics Ogre one. I don't think it's, wait, is it actually called Tactics Ogre? I can't remember, but it was I can't remember. But
it was Ogre Battle.
Ogre Battle, that's it. It was Ogre Battle. Where I had the enemies were supposed to drop tarot cards that could then be used for specific you could then play instead of drawing them. And I totally forgot about that. And so I wanted to design the Eidolon fights in Plus Machine, both to be a little more straightforward, so that there was less for me to keep in my head all at once, which would in turn help the players as well with the mental load. But also meant that I could focus a lot more on making sure the fights actually got their due, with the narration and the dynamics of it. And I feel like the Eidolon fights I did in Machine are far and away the best I've done so far.
I thought it was great.
Thank you.
Zoe, what lessons did you learn from previous seasons?
Oh man, I gotta.
I tried to give you some space to think.
Yeah, my brain works at a pace it chooses to work at. But yeah, as far as GMing, honestly, I didn't bring much GMing beyond knowing that you got to keep things moving. For me, the roughest part of recording past seasons is when we feel frustrated. It's either when we don't know what to do and it feels frustrating and bad and it's just not fun, or the only time it works is when it's Luke GMing and I'm the one who feels frustrated and mad. And then it turns into comedy. But yeah, so it was mostly just hey, I want to make sure that we don't linger too long. I want to make sure that things keep moving. I want to make sure I ask for draws a lot because that's fun and keeps people. Every time you go hey, yeah, draw whatever. If a player proposes an action, then it's always someone will perk up rather than yeah, you do that. But as far as playing, it was just I don't know, let Luke be an asshole and react accordingly. I know what works. I know the dynamic that I have fun playing, and also people seem to really enjoy. So yeah, one of the nicest men I've ever known just gets to be a dick, and it's a good time for everyone.
Iris, what are you proudest of in Plus Machine?
Oh gosh. I am really proud of like the the acting I was able to get out of the players. Like there's one scene I am specifically thinking of in episode 5 where Clotho is playing tag, and it's soon after she tags Lachesis, and like Lachesis gets to have like the little heart to heart with Clotho. And it is a scene where like Maxie like legitimately started tearing up. uh and it was such a beautiful scene and such great acting from Maxie. And it just felt super good that I was able to hit those emotional beats. Because like that happens to me too. Like when I am writing something, I I, I know I am like the thing that like really helps me know that I am onto something with what I'm writing is when I am also feeling the exact emotions I'm writing down. It has happened to me multiple times. um, and getting that kind of response from my players is almost always one of the best parts of GMing something.
Zoe, what are you proudest of in romance?
Um, I think I really liked how what could have just been a goofy one off, like yeah, there's a Jersey mobster who's like a blob of goop, and he has a dump community that lives in a dump. I like it could have been just a funny haha wacky wasteland. But everyone bought in. And I think there were some really genuine sweet moments, like when Jax made ketchup for the little orphan girl, even though that ketchup would vanish.
Oh my god, I
Um,
remembered that.
yeah. There were like lots of very sweet little moments and everything with like Moist Likely. And I just remember like coming out of that episode going, damn, that was a good one. Like y'all were doing cooking with fire. It was great.
Hope getting the
Um,
domino mask.
yeah. I also really loved the finale, specifically when Hereafter is facing her own death, as she knows she will. And like Hope is bravely going up the stairs, which horses can't do, right?
It's really hard. Like,
Okay, Hope was being a very brave boy,
yeah, generally you do not want to make a horse go up or downstairs.
and he had to go up so many while he was sad and he knew his friend was dying. So like I think that emotion was very like that pairing of like character moments was chef kiss.
Iris, what do you wish that you had done better in Plus Machine?
I kind of already mentioned it, but I do wish I had incorporated the NPCs better. And like a big part of that is that, this has been a sort of constant issue for me, is that I have a much harder time figuring out distinct character voices for like a full cast. On an individual like character basis, where I am like playing my PC, uh, for a campaign, I can figure something out for them that I can reasonably stick to. And also, a lot of like what works for me is not necessarily the sound of my voice, but rather the cadence I'm using and the vocabulary choices I'm going with. With a cast of NPCs, it's a lot harder to get away with just that as differentiation, both because it can be really tricky to swap those on the fly. Um, and also because, like, especially if you are having a conversation, even when it's like being broken up by PC voices, like if there's 2 or 3 NPCs in a scene, you really gotta make them sound different. And I have always struggled with that.
It's rough.
Yeah, it is. Funny story. It is one of the reasons why I am considering actually doing voice training at some point.
Hey, I got a bunch of stuff I can send your way. Yeah.
For a long time, I resisted it because I do kind of like my natural voice. And fuck it, I'm gonna get misgendered constantly anyway. Why sound different just to try and get something out of cis people? But the longer I go on, the more I'm like, it would be nice to be able to just create a wider palette of voices if I want to.
Hell yeah.
The thing about your voice is it's always yours.
True.
It's all you.
Even if you change a little bit, still yours.
Zoe, what do you wish you had done better in romance?
Should have killed Hope Patrol.
Oh,
I actually was expecting you to.
Nah, I was never gonna kill that whore. I'm not.
I was certain it was gonna be like either a All-Star Superman sort of thing or a like whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow ending.
Honestly, what I was thinking was going to happen, and then Lexi ended up doing really well. I thought maybe Hereafter and Jax were going to bite it, and it was going to end with Hope Patrol adopting Jax's kid and like riding off into the sunset. But you know, we got what we got. Honestly, I think the only real thing is I wish I could have weaved in the House of Wolves stuff a bit more. It felt a little disconnected until the end. So just a little more cohesive, but still I had a good time. I think it's like fun. Like I don't have any huge like quibbles with how it shook out.
that's about all I have to ask about flashback and romance, unless you two have some more things you'd like to discuss.
Excuse me, you mean Plus Machine?
I'm sorry, Plus Machine, not flashback.
I actually do have a question to pose.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe, were there any song titles you really wanted to use that you just couldn't find space for?
Oh, I did want to use Vampire Money really badly, but I couldn't. I was just like, there's no way to put vampires in this that doesn't feel like it's Eidolon, we gotta have vampires. So yeah, I really wanted to put Vampire Money in there somewhere, or Party Poison. I don't know. I was most proud of Teenagers. Teenagers felt I was real smug when I figured that one out.
That was such a funny inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I had really wanted to use How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful. In the original conception of the story progression for Plus Machine, the party would actually get to like Earth orbit and would encounter the moon, and this would be like cribbing a little from Disco, but I was going to have the moon be turned into like a mecha itself by Earth, and the moon's Eidolon was going to be How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful.
Oh, that would have been good. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Mostly because I've listened to so much of it while I was visiting with Bex. Do you have any songs from Everybody Scream, which for those who don't know is the most recent Florence and the Machine song album that released on Halloween of last year, that you would have wanted to include that you didn't, that maybe like now that the album, if you've been sitting with the album a bit longer, you would have thrown in?
Oh gosh. I think if I was going to include something, it probably would have been Everybody Scream. Like,
Yeah.
I do also really love Sympathy Magic.
Sympathy Magic's so good. That album rules. It's a really fantastic album.
But like that would be a track I would use for a different genre season.
There were so many I was expecting. Like, I thought one of the greats was going to show up. I thought Buckle might show up. And like the Old Religion. Like, I was just like, these are such ominous, like big, especially like Buckle with a mech. Like, oh, the armor's buckling. Like, you're fucked. Get like,
Instead, like, I almost did use that I instead replaced. So the second Eidolon fight you had, which ended up being Drumming Song, that one initially was not going, like, I was going to do a drumming song, but it was initially going to be a fight you had in Jupiter orbit, with like a whole armada.
Would have been sick.
My original plan for the fight you had on Uranus was going to be with mermaids. And it would be this mech that had like a bunch of sort of semi-autonomous drones it would pilot. And oh god, my conception for the Uranus section was so much more complicated, because like the pilots were going to have to be forced to go onto the actual station to investigate, and so the mechs and the pilots would be separated, and the Leviathans would have to fight the enemy mech while the pilots had to try to survive against the autonomous drones that had infiltrated and like killed all of the station personnel. It was a lot, and I ended up like way simplifying it.
That would have been very cool, but also, oh my god,
yeah,
so stressful.
Yes, on both sides. So I ended up simplifying it and like moving Drumming Song up a lot earlier, to then also like incorporate the whole like, why did the Leviathan shut down 30 years ago plot beat a little sooner.
So let me ask you this. After 6 years of drawn from the Undertow, what goals are you bringing in for Thread Spinner?
I feel like I gotta up my freak game, because of the players that I'm playing with on Spark. Like, frankly, I know better than to try and straight man Crystal. That's a loser's game. And I've never played with Morgan before, but I've been like acquaintances and like in the same social circles as Morgan for a while. And I know just how buck wild she gets. So yeah, I wanna get crazy with it. I wanna get like I tend to play the very simple characters. I feel like even Charlie, like her whole thing was she didn't have the simple power and she was pissed off about it. She was like, I wanted something easier than this. This sucks. And my character in Thread Spinner is aggressively not simple. Has a whole lot going on that I think will be very fun to dig into.
Iris, how about you?
Yeah, I am. So obviously, I have always been a fan of like classical literature, like this sort of both Arthurian fantasy as well as this grand like tragic fantasy as well, with like heroes who have these grand adventures and then are slain and fall in some way. They eventually fail. And what I want to do for Thread Spinner is lean into the poetics a bit more. Because I've done these more sort of serious straight-laced characters before. Like, my character in Montreal, for example, is still one of my favorites that I've done. Still super happy with how that ended up. But at the same time, like, I want to give my next character, I want them to be a little more fucked up, but in a way where it's like they're not evil. It's just there's so many things wrong with you. Like, you gotta stop. you like, which is not really something I have done before. And I'm really hoping I'm able to bring that energy to Thread Spinner of like, you really want to root for them, but they're such a disaster.
All right, that's all the questions I had. People have praised me on this podcast. I want to pay it forward and praise Iris. You've stepped up so much behind the scenes. You endured a very difficult recording schedule, or like romance and flashbacks simultaneously. You've been doing so much editing. Iris is the best.
Thank you.
Iris rules. We love Iris.
I have like, I'll be honest. Like, I was not initially sure if I was gonna be able to do the editing that I did. And then I just kind of like forced myself to try. Like, I was initially gonna hand off basically all the machine editing, and then I was like, no, I should do at least half of it. And that ended up being really good for me. I learned a lot of things, like partly from Crystal, honestly. Like, some of the techniques you've done, like, I have started to incorporate. But also just doing it more often has given me a lot more confidence in my workflow and made it far less of a daunting task than it used to be.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, we've come to the end of this postmortem. Any last message for the listeners?
I'm going to be honest, like, this, you know, we've said before that this is, these are the last Eidolon miniseries, and like, that is true in terms of like official, like, main feed content. But like, you can't stop me. I already have like at least 2 other ideas for miniseries I could do for bonus content.
Crystal, Iris is in the walls. Crystal,
you can't get me out of here.
If you can schedule it, then by all means put it on the grab bag.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've got at least 2 ideas for stuff. So like, you haven't heard the last of me as GM.
Can I be shameless for a moment? Look, man, it's a wild time for me. So I'm plugging everywhere I can plug. Yeah, hi. Hi, Zoe. You know me. I'm on Eidolon. But also, did you know I write comic books? They're good. I have a wide variety of them. And if this comes out on May 11th, just on May 20th, you can buy the first issue of 7 Wives. It's a really fucked up, dark murder mystery. And if that doesn't sound good, the week after that, you can buy Wiccan and Hulkling, Raid of Ultron, which is a Pride special. I wrote Phyla Vel. She's gay. She has a sword.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. And then after that, if that doesn't, then you can buy Monsters in Love, a Pride special, where I wrote a story called How to Date Your Dragon.
And also, there's like a Medusa story in there that I assume you are averting your eyes from.
Oh, no, it's fine. I'm fine with Medusas. They're hot enough. Yeah, they get a pass. Yeah, buy those. I would appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Love you. Bye.
All right, listeners, you'll hear me again next week for the Mike and Luke interview. Until then,
Cling to dreams you don't believe in. Our heartbeat is perfect and time rhythm.
Drawn from the Undertow would like to thank Aria Amsbury, Kyanite Gem, Jordan Sam, Mel, Velvet Dragon, Freddie Carrillo, Rose, Seltzer Haver, Witsu, Cancakes, Watermelon, Cassandra Mira, Timothy Miller, Ruby Shine, Forest Traveler, Dexy One, Lyric Solitaire, Dad Inside, Underlying Ocean, Orbital Oracle, Bug Olson, Jack D, Ian Urbina, Nebulous Harmony, and Jennifer. If you would like to have your name read out, as well as a host of other benefits for supporting the show, you can do so at undertow.cards.